Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we make sense of complicated business reports. Today we're diving into Aeries Technology's latest 10K filing, their annual health checkup. It's a bit of a roller coaster, so buckle up because we're about to find out if they stuck the landing or face planted. And stick around to the end because we're about to dissect millions in payouts to executives, so it's definitely not one to miss. Aeries Technology Inc., a global provider of tech and consulting services, seems to be facing some problems. They're struggling to keep their cash flowing and a major customer leaving. We will examine their plans to stay afloat and make out what this means for investors. Before we move on, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. Come check out the place where decoding reports gets you extra XP. Let's start with an issue that no company wants to see, a substantial doubt about their ability to continue as a going concern. That's a fancy way of saying there's question whether or not they'll stay in business. Aeries themselves have said that their cash balance isn't all that great at about just $2.8 yen by millions of dollars. So what's causing all of this uncertainty? Well, it boils down to two main things. First, they have obligations under what are known as forward purchase agreements, or FPAs. These are deals where they might have to pay out a significant amount in cash, about $5 million, or issue more stock, depending on what the other parties choose, then adding insult to injury if they lost a client. A significant customer isn't renewing their contract, resulting in a loss of about $11.5 million every year. That's quite a big chunk. And while they're getting a one-time payment of $3 million as a kind of buyout, that's not going to fully cover the hole in their pocket. So how are they planning to deal with this double whammy? Management's looking at a few ways to fix things. They're trying to get more money through loans, selling more company stock, or even changing current debts into longer-term debts or company stock. They also plan to cut costs and focus on their best markets, which is North America. It is worth remembering that there's no guarantee that these measures will be successful. Any future stock sales could make existing shareholders own less of the company, further cheapening the stock. These are some serious moves the company has laid out to solve some serious problems. Another big factor identified in the report is Aeries' dependence on their international operations, especially in India and Mexico. If anything goes wrong in these places, such as political problems between India and Pakistan, then it could really hurt the company. Another issue is currency risk. A lot of their costs are in rupees and pesos, but revenues are in US dollars. So if those currencies go up against the dollar, Aeries makes less money for each service provided, which can really eat into their profits. There are also difficulties when they try to expand. If they start doing business in countries they don't know well, they might mess up, and that could cost them financially. A summary of Aeries' recent financial situation includes the following. Aeries' recent financial situation includes the following EOIs from $18.7 million, from $21.6 million ad admin selling, general and admin expenses ballooned to $45.5 million, expanded $1 million of $21 7% of their revenue came from the top 5 clients. They had a net loss of $21.6 million general and admin. Expenses ballooned to $45.5 prior to they had a net loss of $21, fees 7% of their revenue. Came from the top 5 clients, $5 million, they had a net loss of $21.45 million. These financials point towards the need to be able to retain their key customers while being able to source more of them effectively and in a cost-effective way. The increase in expenses points toward the need to keep overhead lower so they turn a profit. Now let's dive into how profitable Aeries really is. EBITDA gives a more realistic picture of how a company is doing. We find that the adjusted EBITDA margin is negative, at about -6%. This indicates that the core operations of the business may actually be a detriment to the business. Last year, this measure was at 12.7%. What this means for Aeries, last year they were at near $10 million profit. This year the company has $4.6 million loss. This is a big swing and means they're heading in the wrong direction. We'll keep an eye on this in the following years. Up as of now, it's an accounting value, but for us here on this channel, we value the cash or lack thereof. Adding another challenge is something we're seeing more and more these days, that's climate change. If there are major weather events, it could disrupt their operations and those of their clients. Regions like India, which has been identified as being at high risk, may see significant disruption, which would also impede operations. We will now transition to look at the inner workings of company and see how they operate. One thing that Aeries really tries to maintain is a strong sense of culture and commitment to ESG, environmental, social, and governance, by doing some pretty comprehensive steps such as tactful display, client logo at the office, all Aeries, Aeries, and just company event celebrations aligned to clients. These can result in some really sticky engagements and long-term business. Their culture and branding initiatives ensure alignment with client culture and facilitate the establishment of strong working relationships. The one problem is what comes from this. The amount of responsibilities they are shouldering onto themselves is significant. If things fall through, they could be paying massive damages through claims and litigations. Make sure the company can take responsibility with insurance and have enough cash on hand to pay out potential losses. They are also responsible for cybersecurity, which is a field that's continuously evolving and hard to keep up with. The cost and focus can add up in costs. Let's move now to who's in charge of steering this ship. It seems as though some of the C-suite may also be adjusting to their leadership responsibilities, as much of the team has limited experience managing a public company. There were some recent adjustments during the period as the former CEO resigned and former CFO has since stepped in. In order to succeed, leaders will need to step it up and ensure things run smooth run. On the theme of company leaders, the amount of Class A ordinary shares owned by Venu Raman Kumar, who is the chair of the board and largest shareholder, takes up 58.2% share outstanding versus Meet Atul Dosh's Class V shareholder 1.3%, which seems to be relatively small. All executive officers and directors as a group take up 79.2% of total assets. This makes the direction of the business dependent on them. The company lists that there may be dilution and potential price depression of their company's stock due to sales. This is where many key stakeholders such as founders and employees may be pressured to sell, which doesn't attract new investors. At such important times for the firm, they need new investors to fuel their business. And as one last interesting detail to ensure that the company is being properly checked and accounted for, the company has the support of an independent registered public accounting firm. This entity is to be kept at arm's length for any audits to ensure honesty. On now, putting this all together, here's my take. Aeries has a tough path ahead. Here's a summary of some strengths and weaknesses of the company. The good points are that there is great attention to things such as customer relations and trying to maintain sticky engagements with clients. The leadership, however, seems to be quite new to the roles they are shouldering, and inexperience might cost the company. There are multiple risks that could topple the company, and it's hard to weigh which ones will become detrimental, but in its current state, this means that they will be struggling in the following years if things don't take a turn soon. If their efforts to cut cost and focus on their best markets pay off, Aeries could turn things around. However, it's a risky situation, and the company might face challenges if it's not able to get additional funding or retain key employees. With strong competition and ever-changing technology, Aeries really needs to be nimble in its operations. For such efforts to happen, the leaders themselves need to be aligned with the best future for the company. Alright, that's our breakdown of Aeries Technology's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description for behind the scenes content and discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.